opportunity on all continents. Tourism supports 1 in 10 jobs and provides livelihood for many million more in both developing as well as in developed nations. Now, with the ongoing vaccination drive and falling of COVID-19 cases all over, many countries gradually lifting the travel restriction and tourism slowly restart in many parts of the world. For the revival of this sector, World Tourism Organization UNWTO has already launched a new tourism recovery trackers to support global tourism and accelerate global economy. Working on the philosophy of UNWTO and by creating awareness on tourism, social, cultural, political, and economic values, Conscious Venture with its partner is organizing this webinar to mark World Tourism Day and by engaging global thought leaders and concerned stakeholders to brainstorm and define future roadmap of tourism sector in this situation. Today's webinar will provide an overview of the socio-economic impact from the pandemic on tourism, including on the millions of the livelihood it sustains. Will highlight the role of tourism play in advancing the SDGs, including its relationship with the environmental goals, happiness, and culture.
Ada dia lah. Tadi apa? Tidak.
As being a witness of our first activity, and we're so pleased to gather the eminent panelists this morning, this afternoon, or some countries probably at night. And top of that, I'm so pleased to have Professor Beda as our chief guest for the keynote address today. And I know that with his wide academic experience on travel and tourism, I'm sure will lead our way in that respect. The short introduction of Professor Beda. Professor Dr. François Beda is the founding director of the World Center of Excellence of Destinations, TED, where I have the privilege of forming part together with him on that journey. In fact, which is a non-for-profit organization created in 2007, the support of the UNWTO. He's also the associate professor, the Department of Urban Studies and Tourism, School of Management, University of Quebec in Montreal. He's specialized in tourist destination governance, information technology applied to tourism industry. He was a speaker at many international conferences, seminars, and has published numerous articles about tourist destinations and adaptation, new technology, the travel and tourism sector. So I will leave the floor to Professor François Beda for his keynote address, and also I must say very grateful to have him with us, though with his very tight schedule, and we're so pleased to have such an eminent person among us tonight for this launching, same time our network. Over to you, François Beda. Hello? Professor Beda?
Okay. My mic was sorry. It was
Okay.
Okay. So I'll try again to start sharing my screen. Okay. So now, do you see my screen? Yes. Okay. So thank you very much for this introduction, and so I'm very pleased to be part of this new page of history with the launch of this new network. And so I've been invited to say a few words about the tourism for inclusive growth, which is the theme for the World Tourism Day 2021. And it's basically for a better future for all. So just a minute here. Next, okay. So the way that I'm going to address that topic is how we apply the World Tourism Day 2021 theme to the tourism arena. So basically, how to translate into action this theme, tourism for inclusive growth. So I'm going to talk about two concrete initiatives that we are actually conducting with our partner network in the world. So the first one is going to be the Reconfigura Destino, and the second one, the Tourism and Culture Initiative Online Global Registry. So you all know that in the spring 2020, with this pandemic, the tourism industry, the travel and tourism industry was basically put on a pause. And then UNWTO launched a call for action. So to the international community, what can you do to contribute to the tourism recovery? or to mitigate the impact of COVID-19. So as a partner of or affiliate member of UNWTO, we feel like it was our responsibility to do something. And part of what the UNWTO recommendations outlined was the importance of governance at the local level. So strengthen governance at the local level, and at the same time to increase digital skills at the local level. So just to see that we were in the middle of a big crisis, one of the biggest that we have experienced in in at least a century. And we do expect that, yes, in the future we are going to have other crises. So what type of reaction or scenario we can foresee? So some people, they will say, well, not really new initiative solutions, so it's basically wait and see how we can resume our normal activities. Some other will say, well, can we put forward some innovative solutions, so in terms of progress type of scenario. But some other could say, well, we need a new business plan. And this is exactly what we have focused the Reconfigura Destino. It was to build around some research regarding dynamic capabilities. And here you see the definition of the dynamic capabilities from some academic people. So the capacity of an organization to sense, seize, and reconfigure internal and external resources to cope with rapidly changing environment. And that's exactly what we are experiencing right now. So based on that, let's say, conceptual model, we have developed Reconfigura Destino, putting with 4 key pillars. One is technology, because we know that technology could be a key component of any effort to recovery. Also, collaborative innovation, because the large majority of businesses in the tourism industry are small and very small, medium business enterprises. So then, collaborative innovation, it's key. Also, strengthening governance at the local level, because without a strong governance, we cannot have a very, I will say, effective recovery. And also, we know that every crisis creates new opportunities, so we may expect that we will have in the future new job opportunities. So the role of education institutions are key to prepare the workers for the future of tourism. So our mission, basically, for Reconfigura Destino, is to strengthen destination governance, to promote collaborative innovation and digital transformation at the local and regional level. So I'm going to present briefly the Latin America experience, because this is where we have been invited to implement Reconfigura Destino with our partners in that part of the world, so QNAPEC, Smart, Tourism and Hospitality Consulting, and U-Travel Lab. So we have developed a questionnaire. It was an online questionnaire because everything has been conducted online, as you can imagine. So with 3 fields, 6 topics, 31 questions to basically ask the stakeholders what are their perceptions about our expectation about destination management and development, attractivity and destination marketing, destination continuous improvement. And then the result is 7 countries did participate in this effort. 26 destinations, over 500 stakeholders. So, and then you can see on this map, but since then, I can say that we also have a participant from Dominican Republic, and now we are starting implementing Reconfigura Destino in other parts of the world, like for instance Africa. And here you see that to be inclusive, because this is basically a key word it's to make sure that all stakeholders are invited to participate, to give their say. And here you see that we have people from the private sector, public sector, tour operators, food and beverage, lodging, and with others, you see it's really to have also the local people, resident, to be involved in the tourism industry. So what was important is to have them involved, engaged in the process. So we organized a workshop to basically present the result, the survey results. And at the same time, it was a proactive workshop. During that workshop, in addition of presenting the result, we asked people to vote on which trends are needed to reactivate or reconfigure the tourism industry. So now the next step is really to we are going to implement this initiative in other destinations in Latin America and the Caribbean, but also in other regions. And yesterday, for instance, we conducted the very first workshop in Africa, and it was in the Medina of Tunis. And so then we see that this initiative could also be very attractive for other part of the world. Now, the second initiative is Tourism and Culture Initiative Online Global Registry. So what it is, as a Center of Excellence, of course, we work very, very closely with academic institutions and other UNWTO affiliate member. So this initiative is really to put something concrete in the context of the World Tourism Day theme, which is tourism and inclusive growth. So the background of that initiative is really the 4 global conference jointly organized by UNWTO and UNESCO on culture and tourism. So as you can see, the first one was in 2015, and the most recent one is 2019, and the different topics: building a new partnership model, fostering sustainable development for the benefit of all, investing in future generation. So at the end of each conference, they do have declaration. So the purpose of the registry is to basically enhance the awareness and visibility for tourism and culture initiative conducted by local and regional destination stakeholders, and to develop and disseminate knowledge in the field of tourism and culture synergies. Because when we talk about tourism and culture synergies, basically we're talking about local history, heritage, and for the benefit of the local resident. It's also, by the way, very related to the definition of geotourism. And to make it real, we have developed with the scientific committee over let's say a period of 6 months of discussion, registry questionnaire, and then to make sure that we are very, I will say, accessible to different culture, languages. So this online questionnaire or registration form, I should say so, is in, as you can see, in different languages. Of course, we can add down the road some new languages, because what we ask the people to do, it's basically to copy paste what they have put online regarding their initiatives. So it's quite easy to do. And then this, in doing so, we are going to develop a database that will be, could be used by researchers interested by doing research in the field of culture and tourism, but based on real concrete initiative from the local community. So basically, this is what I put on the table today as how we can effectively translate into action, or to put to the tourism arena the theme of tourism and inclusive growth for celebrating the World Tourism Day 2021. So thank you very much for your attention.
So thank you very much, Dr. Vedard. It's a wonderful initiative. I think that some of the area where you mentioned about the technology and collaboration, collaborative innovation. So I think that most of the panelists, most of the speakers today are coming with a technology background. So we have more to learn from you also. And definitely we are looking for some kind of collaboration with your organization and all organization rather, because this is a theme, and this is a theme which is, I think that not everybody can understand. Either development professionals are participating in this program, or academics are very actively participating in this program. So thank you very much for your enlightened speech. Without taking too much of time, I would like to invite our next speaker, Dr. Professor Roser Harris. Roser Harris has been advancing the use of ICT for poverty reduction and rural development in Asia since 1997. Dr. Harris is the founder of Roser Harris Associate, based in Hong Kong, a consulting firm that is providing services to the Asian government and development agencies, including United Nations, World Bank, International Telecommunication Union, USAID, and ADB. And he has worked on assignment with the project design and implementation, evolution, policy and strategies, development, knowledge sharing and research across Asia, especially in Bangladesh, Cambodia, China, India, Indonesia, Laos, Malaysia, Mongolia, Nepal, Papua New Guinea, Philippines, Sri Lanka, Thailand, and Vietnam. So you can see that he has been traveling all over, and he has a long association with remote indigenous community. I know that Dr. Roser Harris introduced me a long back about community-based tourism using ICT. So he's already working with the community called Borneo in Malaysia, where he recently set up Malaysia's first community radio station. Dr. Harris is also a visiting professor at the Institute of Social Informatics and Technology Innovation at University of Malaysia, Sarawak. So please join me to welcome Dr. Roser Harris. So over to you, Dr. Roser.
Thank you, Arno, for the introduction. The introduction might be longer than my presentation, but let's hope not. So I'm hoping you can see my screen now.
No, not screen. Are you sharing your screen?
That's what I thought.
Not yet.
Let me try again.
Anil, he may not have the rights to share the screen.
Yeah.
Can you just check if you've given rights?
No,
Thanks.
I think that, yeah.
Thanks.
Thanks.
Is that happening now?
Yes.
Yes, we can see that now.
You can see that now.
Yeah, please.
Okay, I'll begin. I'll begin my stopwatch, because I was asked to speak for 10 minutes and no more. I could speak for a lot longer on this subject, but I'll try my best not to. From Anil's introduction, I could just introduce myself by saying I first started working in Borneo in 1998 with the University of Malaysia, Sarawak there, and I was working on a project in a place called Barrio, which is a remote village in the Central Highlands of Northern Barrio. You can see it on my map there. And the idea was to introduce computers and the internet to this remote and isolated community that hitherto had been pretty much starved of communications. And at the time then, this was the late 1990s, nobody had really heard of the internet, nobody used computers, so it was quite a novelty. And there are a lot of challenges you might imagine in a remote and isolated location. We had to use satellite access to the internet and solar panels to generate our own electricity. But with this technology, we set up a community telecenter, which is a shared center with a few computers that the community could use for themselves on a shared basis. We trained people how to use it. But more especially, we spent a lot of time, I say we because I was with a team from the university, we spent a lot of time working and talking and listening to the community to understand how they might be able to put this technology to good use. And that was a key component of the learning outcomes, because this was a research project and it was well publicized and all the research is written up, very easy to find. But the key learning was to really spend time with the community, understand the social, economic profile of the people living there, into how they could use the technology to implement and achieve their own aspirations under their own command. So there were quite a number of outcomes from this, involving enterprise development, education, especially healthcare, cultural preservation, not to mention social communications. But the one I'm going to focus on now, within the context of today's event, and perhaps resonating with the comments from Professor Bedard at a down-to-earth and a possible instantiation of what he was describing, is to talk about the tourism that now takes place in not only the village that we started working with, but throughout the region with a number of other villages, which was basically community-based tourism. At the time that I first went there was just a very slow trickle of tourists coming into the area. They didn't stay long because they didn't know what to expect, so they had to plan their travel, which was always a challenge. But after setting up the Internet Centre, things really started to take off. And this gives you an example of what actually happened. Tourism in the Highlands, in Barrio in particular, and in other parts of the Highlands, became a mainstay of the local economy. And it's characterised by being community-based. There's no tourism organisation in Barrio, to the best of my knowledge. I haven't been there for a while because of the pandemic. But as I understand it, there is no single dedicated tourism organisation in Barrio that is not also involved in other activities, such as agriculture and other small-scale industries. So it's very much community-based. It's run by the community, and they operate tourism as an adjunct to their basically and primarily agricultural livelihoods. And because of the terrain, this is in the middle of Borneo, the highlands there. You can see the environment in the pictures there. It's a wonderful place for jungle trekking, adventure ecotourism, which became organized through various international organizations. And interestingly, the area you may have seen on the previous map, this whole central watershed area of Borneo has been designated as an area of special conservation. It's called the Heart of Borneo. And now that was set up in conjunction with WWF, and they run an eco challenge there every year, which takes people under controlled conditions out into the forest. There are various other food and cultural activities that go on. The community have set up a local museum of their own culture, and there's a great deal of research and what we call research and development tourism. Academics coming in to study the area's biodiversity. Barrio is renowned globally for anthropological studies and other types of scientific as well as technology-based studies. And the final item I want to mention there is it's like a conference that we run in the Highlands every other year. We'll be doing it this year virtually, but we bring people into the Highlands, academics, professionals, government officials, and we stay with the community and spend 3 or 4 days discussing the problems that we have and how we might be able to apply information and communication technologies for solutions to those problems. So at the same time as all this has been going on, which is probably the last 15 or 20 years, the Malaysian government have set up what they call a homestay program. And this is a government program that certifies households to provide homestays, which again, another what I call community-based tourism. So they're homestays within households that are mostly rural, therefore agriculture, and the tourism that they provide is an adjunct to their agricultural livelihoods. So it's very inexpensive. There are many, many rural locations spread all throughout the whole country of Malaysia, in particular East Malaysia, which is two states of Sarawak and Sabah on the island of Borneo. And there you can enjoy authentic encounters with cultures that are probably very different from anybody who doesn't hail from Southeast Asia. English is widely spoken, which is a great boon for people like me who are too lazy to learn any other language, but also for people from around the world who are also proficient in English. But communication with locals is usually very easy. And so there's a lot to learn from the residents of these homestay villages that, as I say, they're certified by the government authority, tourism authority, to a minimum standard of entertainment and safety and cleanliness and hospitality. So generally you can expect a reasonable experience, although I should say they're all very different and all very inspiring to visit. So you receive a totally immersive rural experience with wonderful food, the scenery is fantastic, and the people are ultra friendly. So the point I'm trying to make, coming back to some of the earlier comments with regard to technology, is that as more and more communities are being supplied with information technology and the internet, computers, then it's possible for overseas visitors to book direct. And now most of the communities that I've visited, probably 20 or more throughout East Malaysia, are connected to the internet one way or another, and they can use either their computers or their handphones to promote their business directly. And this cuts out middlemen who are taking their 15% commission. And it means visitors can get a much better idea of what to expect and plan their trips to stay longer and have direct contact with the people who are actually providing the experiences. So generally, I call it e-community-based tourism, where more of the tourism revenue goes directly to the people who are actually providing the experiences and who actually are most in need, because they're generally among the rural population are the poorest and least served within the country. The final point I'd like to make, which is pretty new as far as I'm concerned, certainly since the pandemic arose, is the idea of virtual tourism. And I recently come across this website called hago.com that provides virtual tourism experiences, which you can book live. It's not a YouTube video. You can actually book live and engage real time in the way we are doing that now with tourism guides throughout the world. I, a couple of days ago, spent some time with a tour guide wandering around the streets of Malacca in Malaysia, and I'm booked up for another one, I think in a couple of days' time, to enjoy the sunrise over Siem Reap and the temples around there. So this is another opportunity online. Another picture I show there is a mountain climber in Everest, I believe, not Everest, in the Himalayas. I believe he was climbing Manaslu, I'm not sure if I've said that right, but one of the 8,000 meter peaks, and he was giving live broadcasts during his ascent. And the guy at the bottom is a friend of mine in Borneo, who's is multi-skilled artist, musician, and tour guide, and he sends out YouTubes regularly on trips that he takes people around through the jungle, and I'm trying to get him interested in setting up something like this on Hago as a virtual tourism operator. So I believe I'm 9 seconds over my time, so I think I'll call it a day there. Thank you very much for your attention, and hope to answer any questions you may have. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Roser, again for a wonderful presentation. And I'm so happy that everybody is sticking to the time, and we are before time. Especially your last slide was very interesting, that virtual tourism, like it's linking our professional skills of technology with the tourism sector. So I'm sure that in the due time, after all the presentation, we would like to have more discussion on virtual tourism and would like to share the experience of other panelists also. Now, we have another wonderful speaker. She is also coming from a very different background, very dynamic background, Vinita Dikshit. She's based in India with 30 years of experience in India as well as in the UK in the area of technology, education and governance. In the past 15 years, she has transitioned from the mainstream corporate life to the ICT for development and public policy initiative. She is an experienced industry leader and strategic thinker with a deep knowledge of India's evolving digital industry and added exposure to cross-border trade issues. Presently, she is heading one of the leading travel and service company, Airbnb, as a policy head, as a head of the public policy for India and South Asia. Before joining Airbnb, she worked with Google on the policy issue, and her subject is very different because she's the only one who's going to talk about the policy, especially this kind of issues, which are very interesting and very promising issues. So over to you, Vinita, and thank you very much for joining. Please join me to welcome Vinita. Over to you, Vinita.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Anil, for the warm welcome, and hello to my co-panelists. It's a privilege to be here. So I'm going to talk a bit about what Airbnb does in this space, how we are working with different central and state governments, and some of the other partnerships that we have within India, which we feel are impacting in a positive way for the development of community-based tourism in India. I don't have to say this, the other speakers have already said it, that tourism is a major driver of jobs and economic growth. But due to the ongoing pandemic, the sector has dramatically changed, impacting local and global economies, livelihoods, public services and opportunities on all continents. The World Travel and Tourism Council says that tourism supports 1 in 10 jobs. So that's like a really significant impact, and provides livelihoods for millions more in both developing and developed regions. After the uncertainty of almost 2 years, which has had unprecedented impact on travel and tourism, things have now begun to change over the last few months, and initiatives and measures taken by governments across the world in reviving the tourism sector are now seeing results, and travel is seeing a significant upturn in the second half of 2021, which is bolstered by the ongoing vaccination rollout and other efforts to unlock borders. So I think this is a great opportunity for us to reboot tourism as we see it. Taking a holistic approach, which are aligned with SDGs, we strongly believe that while tourism-backed economic growth is the need of the hour, we must also ensure that the demand doesn't overwhelm supply, and instead advocate for a more conscious approach to tourism. Airbnb's efforts in this direction have been aimed at working with our hosts, government, as well as civil society organizations to help create and support the employability and skill development efforts. In our view, hosting is a great way to ensure that the economic benefits of travel are distributed within the communities in which our hosts are present. In recent past, we have also seen that the hosted travel has also seen a great resurgence. So just to share a couple of examples of how we work together with government agencies, multilateral agencies, as well as civil society organizations, just want to share a few examples here. In 2017, we partnered with the World Bank to work together on 4 country pilots. These were in India, Indonesia, Peru, and South Africa. This was to develop a scalable model for inclusive, sustainable tourism. The pilots focused on demonstrating the inclusion and job creation role that platforms like Airbnb have, particularly for women and rural communities and youth, providing training to enable new job creation and improvement of revenue generation, and producing personal case studies and stories which people could identify with, and these could then become role model for people in other parts of the country to work with. I have to say that these pilots yielded really positive results for us, and we are now looking at how we can scale the learnings from these pilots across other projects that we do. Airbnb has always supported travel as a way of fostering meaningful connections and regenerating communities, and we are committed to further encourage travel to lesser known destinations, and will enable inclusive community-led development. And the example that Dr. Roger Harris shared from Borneo is really close to what we are saying and the work that we've done in India. So just as by way of example, I want to highlight one of the partnerships that we've done in India. This is with the Self-Employed Women's Association. It's one of the largest association of unorganized women who work in unorganized sector in India, with over 1.5 million members. And working with them, we started an initiative called Hum Sab Ek Hai, which means we are one. And we train women from Seva to become hosts on our platform. And just by way of an example, I want to share a story of one Seva host, Gauri Ben, who was an agricultural laborer, and her entire family used to have an annual income of 50,000 rupees, the entire family. After becoming a host on Airbnb, today she earns more in 1 month in a season, in a tourist season, than what her entire family earned in an entire year. So we know that this can have tangible impact on people, on their lives, but it also have a wider impact on community. There are many other stories coming in from Seva, where women, when they initially started hosting, the community was fairly apprehensive about what was happening. And today these women are seen as role models, and the community actually asks these women to start talking to other women and girl child in their community so that they can learn and become hosts. I'm very happy to say that last month Airbnb and Seva announced the extension of our partnership to onboard Seva members into a new state, Union Territory of Ladakh, in a bid to expand livelihood opportunities for rural women and rebuild tourism in a way that will deliver positive outcome for communities in Ladakh. So this is one example of how we work deeply and extensively with one partner. There is another example where we want to broad base the availability of skill sets that can help grow tourism. So in 2019, we partnered with Digital Empowerment Foundation to train 15,000 potential women entrepreneurs in India in the hospitality sector as part of our effort to identify India's high potential but lesser known tourism destination and promote them to a global audience of travelers in partnership with Government of India. Anil mentioned the work that we do with government organizations. Because I work in the public policy domain, I'm very happy to share that one of the things that we attempt to do is not to work in isolation, but with central and state government agencies. So in the last few years, we've partnered with 7 state governments of Maharashtra, Gujarat, Telangana, Nagaland to promote homestays in these states so that they become a mainstay for development of local tourism and to support skill building efforts to promote entrepreneurship in the tourism sector. We believe that harnessing tourism benefit will be critical to achieving sustainable development goals and implementing the development agenda. One critical aspect of community-based development and promoting inclusive development is that cultural appropriation must be prevented, and local people should be able to tell their own stories. So in India, we've partnered with Sahapedia to celebrate India's diverse cultural heritage with a focus on making it accessible to all. Our goal has always been to enable such experiences and help travelers discover cultural aspects that are truly reflective of that city or of that country. Our collaboration with Sahapedia is at the forefront of preserving India's cultural heritage through unique activities to encourage travelers to engage with our local heritage, especially at the iconic monuments. Dr. Raja Harris also mentioned a unique product. He spoke about virtual travels that are now becoming an important aspect of travel experience. So tourism activities are a flourishing $150 billion a year industry, and Airbnb experiences are one of a kind activity designed and hosted by locals. Unlike a typical tour or workshop, experiences go beyond the activities themselves. They offer a deep dive into local host world through their own passions. The hosts offer their guests special knowledge, unique skills, and inside access to local places and communities that the guests couldn't find on their own. And I'm very happy to say that when we launched experiences, many of these hosts offered either based on their own passion, a new activity, and once the pandemic hit, converted many of these to online success stories, and which from an in-person program to 100% virtual travel platform called Online Experiences. And they have become instant success stories with top earners generating over $20,000. And there is one charismatic host and her friends who have raked in $150,000 a month. I don't know if everybody earns that much money, but I think I would take $20,000 any day to support real and authentic experiences. I would say in the end that as a responsible ecosystem player, our aim is to help advance the cause of a truly inclusive travel and tourism sector through capacity building, knowledge, and best practices to drive growth, encourage innovation, and build a rich portfolio of future-ready travel offerings. We at Airbnb want to be remembered for doing the right thing, for providing seamless and impeccable travel experience to our guests, and to make travel inclusive, sustainable, and that benefits communities economically. We believe that homestays are a great way to grow tourism, especially to the lesser known area, as we try and distribute the benefits of tourism to communities all around. And we believe working closely with government and creating a conducive policy environment to promote this. As we move ahead, our focus will be to accelerate tourism, bring more value to the community through tourism-related activities, and create tens of thousands of hospitality entrepreneurs all over India and in the region. Thank you so much, Anil, for this opportunity.
Thank you, Vinita. It's a wonderful session. So much of learning from a session. I was not aware that Airbnb is doing so many things, especially that women empowerment, the program which you are running through Seva, and the program Hum Sab Ek Hai. I think that's a good one. Here, I think that you have a right kind of experience working with government as well as the civil society. So I'm sure that our panelists must be having more experience and more questions for you. So definitely, even I have some questions. So I will ask you once the session is over. So taking further, without much delay, I would like to invite another technocrat, academician, and passionate person who's working in the tourism sector right now, Professor Narayan Kalutha Ramayar. So he's the director of Institute of Social Informatics and Technology Innovation and Professor of Computer Science at the Faculty of Computer Science and Information Technology, University of Malaysia, Sarawak. And he has been a part of number of research and commercialization projects, which includes European Commission projects, Japanese Human Resource Grant, National Language Technology projects, product projects, including number of high-profile consultancy projects, and won number of awards with more than 90 refereed publications. So presently, Professor Narayanan is also working on another interesting project, which is very relevant here. That is a rural and responsible tourism project in Asia Pacific. So let's see that what he has to share. So please join me to welcome Professor Nara. So over to you, Professor Nara.
Thank you very much. Dr. Anil. I think it was a bit too kind of a introduction. Now, can all of you see my screen?
Yes, sir.
All right. So without further ado, I will do my duty today to introduce the Asia Pacific Partnership for Rural Tourism. I think I have to say thank you to Dr. Anil for inviting me. I mean, it's such a distinguished panel, and I mean, to be here is a privilege. And I think, somehow my job would be to look at the university industry partnership. I mean, to see how the university itself could play a part. And you will see some examples of what I would like to share with you, especially coming from what Roger has already started. Right. So, you will see that, we are part of a team, and, he started a project called eBarrio, and you will see some extensions to what has happened since then. Right. So, in the audience, I know that we have Councillor John Trawe from the Miri Council. So I'd like to acknowledge his presence, and also I realize that there's someone from a remote location, Lian Labang from Barrio is here with us. I just noticed his name on the list. Right. So thank you and welcome to both of you, and anyone else who I've missed, right? So welcome, and I do hope that this is just a start of a partnership where we will explore the partnership towards sustainable development, right? Towards a common goal, a vision. Right? So without further ado, I'll just move on. But before I start, let me just share with you, I'm located in the largest state in Malaysia, which is called Sarawak, and it is on the Borneo Island, right? It's also called the land of the Hornbills, and you saw many pictures from Dr. Roger's presentation. And we have started with the eBarrio project. I mean, so what you see here, my institute also comes from the eBarrio legacy, which started in 1999, and we now are known as the Institute of Social Informatics and Information. We're 10 years old, and you will hear some activities about our institute, right? I mean, the vision is to envisage an inclusive knowledge society comprising of communities inspired to innovate using technology for sustainable development, right? And we had all these concepts of sustainability and all even before, SDGs were promoted, really. Some sense, working with personalities, as you see, John Trawe, who's one of the key persons, and then also Roger Harris, I think, and some wonderful personalities. We've gone a long way since our humble beginnings, but I think what is most important in our activities is the Community Institute partnership, built on trust and relationships. And based on these two, once we have this, we have a caring environment where the community don't see us as outsiders, but they see us as long-term partners. In a way, they're always welcome. I think in a way, for us, when we go there, it's a project, but for them, what happens is they see us as UNIMAS, and part of their extended family. So it's a beautiful relationship we have, moving towards responsible, resilient, sustainable, innovative, and respectful tourism, which is really what we are hoping to achieve from the partnership that I'm going to talk to you. But really, the institute itself is not only me. There are over 30 people, cross-disciplinary from all areas from the university. We all work together. We do activism. Social science people go in first, and then they start creating linkages, and then next the engineers will go and design something, and then the IT people will go and train something. So we co-design not only among ourselves, but also with the community. So that's why when we say responsible rural tourism, it's really not one type of stereotype solution. What we are looking at here is we are looking at various alternatives. So you see some suggestions here, mainly coming from Dr. Roger, who's worked very closely with what we do. You see virtual tourism. So here are only some beginning ideas. And I just hope that from today's session, we will be able to populate this space with some very meaningful ideas that are sustainable and something that we can carry through for a long time. Right? So just to give you an impression, okay, coming from this institute, why are we talking about sustainable tourism? We don't see tourism as a thing by itself. We see tourism fully connected with the women's activities, with the ability to manage a homestay. We see the aspect of the home coming together with culture as well. Culture is very important, and then agriculture comes in there. So when we work with very, very rural communities like the Penan community, who used to be nomadic tribe before, and what we do with them now is we have worked out a workflow for sustainable craft production, right? So the activity that we started with them is extremely enlightening, and I will say very satisfying, because in that community there used to be only 2 people doing crafts, but right now every longhouse there is one person at least doing a craft, and in a way you find that the households have become a mini factory. Whenever we go there, they try to complete the product and send to us. And the thing is, the experience we have, we brought in an expert from the creative arts faculty, Dr. June Ngo, who managed to turn their ideas of basket. She took the motifs from there, and we came up with these platter ideas, which are selling quite a bit through global markets and also. But then, we have to continue going back there to inspire them to produce in this manner. So these are some of the success stories we have. But for responsible rural tourism, we need to have ecological, economic, political, and cultural balance, and with the people in the center, right? So this is roughly what we do. And as we move towards indigenous people and sustainable development, a connected view of tourism is what we are promoting. Community knowledge management, community handicraft. So all these aspects, community life learning. So we have some very interesting experience where we brought in technology to a rural place, and we try to bring in something from outside. And I think, as you can see, I'll just share with you this example, because I'm given the time, I don't want to eat up other people's time. So let's see. I'll just give you a single example where we were partnering the European Commission. They wanted us to take the massive open online classroom concept to Barrio. I mean, the place which Dr. Roger was talking about. Right? So when we were talking to these rural communities, we were working with the Single Women's Association. Right? And well, I mean, in rural communities, they are much more marginalized than even the urban mothers. So these mothers are very enterprising, very ready to do something, but somehow, well, they don't have the opportunities that others have. So when we talked to them, they said, we have these MOOC technologies. And then they said, what is MOOC? Why do we need this MOOC technology? So they were wondering what animal it was. And when we explained to them, I think my colleague, Dr. Pauline Bala, I mean, she's one of the members of our team, and she explained to the community, this MOOC is actually like a refrigerator. Right? She says, in a refrigerator, you can put in food. Whenever you need, you can take it out. When someone else needs the food, they can take a piece of it and leave the rest. Right? So in the similar way, MOOCs contain knowledge like a refrigerator. So as she started giving them analogies of concepts that they are familiar with, they then realized, you are coming with a very interesting concept, a MOOC, knowledge coming from somebody outside there for our community of mothers. And then they ask back, why do we need this outside knowledge? Right? So something that was seen to be very useful coming from the advancement happening in Europe and all, the community says we don't need this. And alternatively, what the mother said was, Sinarang, she said, can we have a space where I can share my beading knowledge with my children? So that actually started a pioneering concept called community-led MOOCs, which my university has been creating a space. We have a YouTube channel where all these videos, and we are hoping that this partnership will be a kind of inspiration for us to look at stories from all over the world. And the joy in the mother's eyes you see, after they complete the video, will my child be able to see this? The kind of innocence that we saw, I can tell you it's worth more than money. And I can tell you there's a tremendous potential for tourism tapping on life learning. That's really what we call it, life learning of the rural community. Not only rural community, when we presented this in Miri, library, one of the ladies was asking, can I also promote my, not only this beads, can we talk about dance and others? So there are people not having access to the right technology to take them out. And see, when we can link in the e-commerce facilities together with their knowledge sharing ability, I think the potential is just mind-boggling, right? So without further ado, I just like to share that our experiences working, we have translated what we learned in working with the communities into a knowledge fair. And a knowledge fair is, something that has been around, but the way we use the knowledge fair, where we used to call it a unconference, and then it's actually a non-conference, developmental non-conference. But I think the rightful word for e-Borneo Knowledge Fair is a co-design conference, right? So having this co-design conference, we've actually been able to come up with local champions coming from the community who are now speakers, who are now stars in their own being. Councillor John, who's with the Miri Council, is one of them who came from Barrio, and while working with him, and then there's Edwin Maru here, who won the Entrepreneur Award, and there's Garen Jangan from the Penan community, who's serving as a consultant to people who come into the community. So you can see that our knowledge that we have gained over the past 20 years, we are sharing it through the knowledge fair. And some of the themes that you will see in this year's conference, which is going to be in a month's time, will cover some of this. And as a conclusion, I just like to say, remember these dates, 26 to 28 October, e-Borneo Knowledge Fair. Well, you can go to our website, it'll give you a link there. If you want to scan this barcode, you're also welcome. And we have already written a book, and that book, the main author is Dr. Roger Harris, who's also with us today. So if you all have any question about how we can take this Asia-Pacific Partnership for Responsible Rural Tourism to the next level, then this platform that we have with us is really what I wish to offer to every one of you. Thank you very much for the opportunity, and I just do look forward to working closely with all of you in the near future.
Well, thank you very much, Professor Nara. So I can understand that you are directly or indirectly inviting all of us on 26 to 28 to attend your session, Knowledge Fair e-Barrio Fair. Is it right? So we are so tempted to see beautiful photographs by Dr. Roser also, by you also, and I'm happy that Mr. John from Miri City Council is also there. So thank you very much, and definitely would like to visit the location sometime, and would like to learn more about it. So thank you very much. And now our next speaker is, we are very much on time. That is the best part about this session. We have Mr. Nicholas Lee. Nicholas Lee is country coordinator for Global Peace Foundation, Thailand, as well as in Cambodia. And he's a Secretary General for Global Peace and Development Service Alliance. And fortunately, Conscious Venture is also part of this network. So Nicholas is a global peace builder, a social activist with more than 17 years of global experience in social program, development, strategic partnership, volunteer recruitment, youth leadership program, cross-functional team leadership, creative project management. He is currently serving in the Global Peace Foundation, Thailand chapter as a country representative. They organized a very mega session last month with the UNWTO also and PATA also. He is very closely working with PATA to develop some kind of sustainability capacity building program for the travel industry. In 2019, he was appointed as Secretary General for Global Peace and Development Peace Service Alliance, GPDSA, as a service-based knowledge platform promoting global collective efforts to achieve UN SDGs, amplifying voice and good work of local and regional services, efforts that impact lives of our community and the environment. The Global Peace Foundation is taking a leading role of GPDSA along with the partners organizations across Southeast Asia, South Asia, East Asia, and Eastern African region. So please join me to welcome Nicholas Lee. Nicholas, over to you, sir.
Thank you, Dr. Nijagi, for inviting me. Thank you for your kind introduction. It's a long, very intense introduction. Thank you so much. I'm glad to be here to be with all the distinguished panel speakers. It's very exciting. It's very insightful by listening to all your content, especially on the community-based tourism. So, as mentioned by Dr. Anujagi, Global Peace Foundation is an international organization, right? So, it's the essential work is for peace building. So, what is peace building, right? So, it's simply speaking is to create understanding, right? To create kind of relationships. So, in the context of tourism, for the last 3 years, we have been signing MOU with Pacific Asia Travel Association is to promote tourism and traveling as a driver and a tool for promoting peace, because peace and tourism is always interconnected with each other. And with my colleague here also in this room, Mr. Rampanta from Nepal, Global Peace Foundation, the Executive Director from Nepal chapter. And 3 years back in Nepal chapter, they initiated this Peace Environmental Tourism conference. So it's how this terminology, right, peace, environmental, and tourism interconnected to each other. Without peace, I can say like it's how the tourism industry also affected, right? And but without good sustainable environment, it's also affected the tourism industry. But with tourism, but we can really like strengthen also strengthen the work of peace building, and also to promote as a space, as an opportunity to promote the sustainable environment. So it's how the Global Peace Foundation come into the picture tonight, and also into the picture of the tourism industry. But very exciting by listening to all the panel sharing. So I suppose invited by Dr. Chagi is to conduct the Q&A section. Is not to speak, and he just texted me a few minutes ago asking me to sharing. But by the way, I'm great to connect with you all. I think we have about 20 minutes, isn't it, Dr. Chagi?
Right. So you can.
Yes, I think
Nicholas, sorry to interrupt, but the one option is that you can see read the questions in the task in the chat box, and second is because we are very passionate audience also, and they are also coming with a very good experience, so maybe they can raise hand and we can ask them to directly ask the question to the panelists. So that is another
absolutely.
Option.
Yes, thanks for a suggestion. I think I saw some question on the chat box, so maybe I can read it out, and then later on we can open to the floor. You just can open your mic and also your video. You can ask question directly to the speaker. So the first question will be how you see the future of the Airbnb with the pandemic, and how you think stakeholders should adapt. So this is a question to Ms. Venita and from Mr. Maga.
Thank you so
Ms.
much.
Venita, your floor. Yeah.
Thank you so much for the question, Mr. Maga. I would say that with over 4 billion hosts and more than 1 billion guest arrival in almost every country across the globe, Airbnb is in a unique position to see how travel is changing. And we've always fundamentally believed that travel should be community-led. It should serve micro-entrepreneurs and local businesses. And in many ways, the new travel trends, the more people looking for properties with more seclusion and privacy, yet offering a unique opportunity to enjoy offbeat locales, have served to reinforce this. And our business model to promote hosting and authentic experiences serves well, into this trend. So I believe that while pandemic may have changed or impacted the way people travel, people's desire to travel and to have new experiences, authentic experiences, be closer to the culture of people where they're traveling to, will continue to remain the same. And Airbnb, with its philosophy of belonging everywhere, is committed to supporting such travel, and we are committed to promoting sustainable and responsible tourism. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Vinita, for your answer. So the next question would be, I would like to ask how to keep motivation of local villages in tourism destination under the pandemic. So I think this question for all speakers, those who are engaging the local community, maybe first go to Dr. Roger.
Hey, thanks for the question. I guess that would come up because I've heard it before. And that's one of the reasons I started looking into virtual tourism. That seems to me an opportunity to explore in order to keep tourism alive in local destinations at a time when visitors cannot physically visit. So I think as there are structures emerging to assist providers of these kind of experiences, it seems like there may be opening up opportunities to do this. Of course, it's very new and it's not going to replace the real thing, but who knows, it may linger on after traveling becomes as normalized as it's going to be. So I do think that's something that is worth exploring, making best use of technologies which are becoming easier and easier to use and more capable.
Thank you, Dr. Roger, for your answer.
May I ask?
Yes, Dr. Francis. Yeah.
One impact of this pandemic is that because international travel was really stopped. So the impact or the result was to put the emphasis on the potential for local tourism. And this is very actually interesting because maybe without this pandemic, so we put a lot of international trade and media focus on international tourism. But in fact, there is a great potential for local tourism because even people within a region or a country, we cannot take as granted that they really know their destination. So because they cannot travel somewhere else, but they like to travel, they like to go to do something. So we see a great potential. Actually, this is what we have experienced, at least in my country and other destinations that we have the opportunity to work with. The resurgence of local tourism. And actually, I think that's a plus for the travel and tourism industry, because or what we call also people traveling near their place, it could also be very enriched in terms of to be proud of our community, that type of things. So if we look at on the positive way of this pandemic is the focus on local tourism, and I think that it's going to stay in terms of impact, positive impact.
Francois, I think you raised a very important point here, and I just wanted to bring it in purely from a policy and interaction with government agencies. They've suddenly discovered that domestic tourism is something to be promoted, something to be cherished. It's not all about foreigners coming in and spending tourism dollars. And one of the other things that I have seen is that because people are looking for homestay or farm stay kind of places to go, these suddenly seem to have gained importance in the overall tourism policy domain. On the one hand, it's good because they are finally getting their due in terms of the attention that they deserve. On the other hand, I think my worry is that tourism sector is usually dominated by traditional economy, legacy, license-driven kind of, sector, right? And this is now being imposed onto the newly developing sector of homestays, farm stays, alternate accommodation, how technology can be used, for promoting some of these. So I think we are at a very interesting juncture where promotion of domestic tourism could open up new places to go, so people will actually discover places within their own countries. Yeah. It will open up new ways to stay and travel, so go just beyond large hotels. But at the same time, I think it's a great place for policymakers to come in to find new ways of creating opportunities within the tourism sector, looking at these alternate accommodation and new destinations.
I'd just like to share an experience that I had. Over last week, we visited 3 rural communities, and we've been there before, so I know what they would look like before the pandemic. And but right now, you see, we are traveling on a road that is kind of going to a remote place, but there's no other traffic going on the road. So it's totally unusual. And the community who have been used to tourism as a means of livelihood are suddenly cut off from the very source of being able to put up a cultural performance, or put up homestay number days. So all those things are affected. And the sense I get from talking to members of the community, they want something better. They are looking for ways to bounce back. And the beauty of all this is they are willing to put up with learning new things. When we brought in opportunities for them to use digital technologies in ways that they would not have thought of before, I see that there's no reluctance at all. In fact, they are giving me ideas which I have not thought about. So I can see there's tremendous potential for participatory, inclusive approach where the community members themselves think of some value creation from their assets, which have become now more visible to them since nobody is kind of rushing for it. And they now have more time to reflect back and to think of what is a much more high value yielding tourism that they can engage in. So I can see that there is actually a space created. I would say probably this space is a temporary space. It could be another year before it's released, but then the time, if it is used wisely to turn it into products like digital tourism until people actually come back. It might be such that the value of the moment that they can provide in a virtual engagement, if it is rich enough, then that becomes their product for future. Right? So our job now as a university is in connecting all aspects of their life into a tourism experience. Tourism is not like an industry, but it's like life experience for them. So this is the challenge that we have taken, and I'm saying that every party that I engage, they are all very forthcoming now. In a way, everybody is like having reflected back, they all want something better. And I think we shouldn't go back to a new normal that was the past. We should go back to a new normal, which is something much more meaningful, much more valuable than we ever imagined it to be in the past. Right? Thank you very much.
Thank you for all the distinguished panel for your great answers. So, does anyone have a question? Then you can open your mic, and also let me see. Does anyone raise hand? You can open your video as well.
Can I ask if you give me permission, Nicholas?
Sure.
Idea is that because it was a wonderful session with it's not easy to get such panelists under one platform. And the best part is that most of the panelists and the audience today is coming from a very different background. They are more working in the development sector, technology sector. And their approach is that how to make tourism as a responsible or a sustainable tourism sector. And when I talk to the traditional business person from the tourism sector, their approach for the sustainable business is slightly different, right? So because we are socially responsible citizens, whether we are working on digital divide, digital empowerment, corporate social responsibility, corporate sustainable responsibility. So we understand the importance of sustainability, linking sustainability with tourism is there. Professor Bedard mentioned about the tourism for pause. So I call it a tourism after pause. How this is going to be the picture of tourism after pause, and what is the purpose of this network. So there is that out of the discussion, technology was the prime topic today, whether we are talking about digital tourism, we are talking about virtual tourism. So definitely without technology, we cannot go for it. And the base of DNA of even a company like Airbnb or Make My Trip, Yatra.com, technology is the backbone for everything. So my submission here is, or my question, it's not a question, but this thing is that tourism after pause, what should be the focus area for an individual, for a professional like us, especially with the network, how to focus on that. As I mentioned that Nicholas is already talking to PATA to have some kind of sustainability training program for all the stakeholder in the ecosystem of tourism sector, because some of the tourism sector, they mean business, they nothing more than not beyond the profit. So it's very important to sensitize them, do some kind of capacity building for them, and I'm sure that once we do it, they will be in the mainstream, like what Vinita has done. The ladies, the women in that, the poor women in the Ahmedabad or Gujarat, they never thought that they can be a part of tourism ecosystem. Now they are part of ecosystem, and she has mentioned about very successful case study. So likewise, if we can come out with some kind of that declaration on this, and that some kind of collaborative platform we can create today, and we can say that okay, we are a part of this network, and whoever have a domain expertise, we can contribute. And Vinita has expertise with dealing with the government, with the civil society. We also have some kind of expertise. All of us have some expertise, and with a global presence. Can we define some kind of declaration today that these are the points, so that we can say that okay, this is the agenda, we would like to take it further. As Nicholas, the organization of Nicholas and Ram is also there from Kathmandu, who's the managing director of Global Peace Foundation Kathmandu, Nepal, and they mentioned they are not able. The US office is not able to join because they were insisting that we have to link peace with the tourism. And the present situation in Afghanistan and many other part of the world, that peace is not there, so tourism is also not there. So all this agenda can we cultivate, can we develop, or can we promote through the different platform? And if any other suggestion is there, we would like to include in our agenda, so that let's see that how we can proceed from here. So it should not be another webinar. We want that we should take it further from here with the right kind of people, very bright and very intelligent people from here, with experienced people. So I would be more than happy to have this kind of agenda and take this further with your help. So thank you very much. Over to you, Nicholas.
Hello.
Thank you, Dr. Jackie. Yeah, Mr. John.
Okay. I just would like to say here, one, we are talking about the pandemic, the COVID-19, and we are talking about responsible tourism and how to promote tourism in the sense of visual. I would like us to think along the line how to leverage tourism on this COVID-19 in a sense, because to me, I also a practitioner of homestays, and then I'm the first one in Barrel. It's a blessing in disguise, in a sense, It creates a lot of localized activities, just like tourism. And then I realized the local tourism, they spend more. I mean, local people from the neighbor town coming to the village because they are quite near. So they will spend all the money in the pocket. Actually, the localized tourism spend more economy compared to those people coming from overseas, like the UK, like the US, they try to minimize their spending. For example, the Chinese from Miri, in the small town around, they will go up to Barrow and buy a lot of rice because we are very famous of rice. They will go up to Barrow and buy a lot of agriculture thing like pineapples, you know. So it create another sort of economy. I mean, it will force the economy to be different way of economy, and the amount also much bigger. So I think I would like to see how we can leverage this pandemic 19 into the tourism. I think that's all that I want to share here, and it become something that we can think about. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. John. Dr. Roger, raise hand. Do you have any inputs for this?
Yeah, I just wanted to, in response to Anil's previous comment, I think he made the point himself about technology being central to almost everything we've been discussing. And I know, because I'm also in the travel business. I own a travel agency which my wife runs, and we've been working with technology for more than 20 years. And technology has overturned the travel industry, the world's largest industry, as was pointed out, in a way that has made it almost completely different from how it used to be. So if we look at our topic headline of Tourism for Inclusive Growth, it kind of implies that some people are included and other people are, how can we say, less included. Well, whoever's already included in growth of the tourism industry are already well endowed with all the technology they need. The airlines, the hotels, the big corporations, even the smaller players, the smaller agencies and travel advisors, they're all using technology. They can use it wherever they like. They call them digital nomads. They can roam around the world and be effective selling tourism products. So tourism for inclusive growth in the sense that it implies helping people who are not included, I think means those who implies at least those who are less included in the digital infrastructures that we all take for granted now. So I don't think we can separate the idea of spreading tourism for inclusivity from the idea of spreading internet access and other forms of technology access also for the purpose of inclusivity. So I would put that close to the head of whatever agenda we generate, and which Anil, I think, is alluding to, that inclusive tourism means inclusive access to information technology. And, you know, in a way, I've already tried to demonstrate that from my previous comments during my slides. But I think another issue emerges when we, some other speakers may have more to say about this, is to, if tourism is to be inclusive, it shouldn't be exclusive, and it shouldn't come to the point where people complain about tourism, how can we say, the negative effects of mass tourism, which is now pushing back, communities are pushing back against mass tourism because it's excluding them from the benefits of their own localities. And we know some examples in Barcelona, in Venice, where residents are saying, look, we've had enough of mass tourism, it's destroying our environment, and it's excluding us from the enjoyment that we appreciate of our own environment. So I think that's possibly another topic that we have not touched on, the negative effects of tourism and how they can be avoided, pandemic or no pandemic, in order to achieve a more inclusive industry involving people who are currently not included. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Roger. Yeah, as a Malaysian as well, so I truly want to express very years more that you invest your time and your efforts in Malaysia, in East Malaysia. I've been in East Malaysia I think a couple of years ago. It's really many places is underdeveloped, especially in the rural and the poor area. So I'm so glad and exciting to see how you build all kind of technology, you know, and also to connect from the rural, to the outside, to the outside world, to tourism. I didn't see any question now. Maybe I also want to ask Dr. Roger. So during this pandemic time, did you already started such technology, or after that, or before that, in the community?
We started introducing technology into communities in the highlands of Sarawak, East Malaysia, in the early 2000s, 1999, early 2000. So you can see some of the pictures that we were using. We didn't even have flat screens or portable computers then. So the technology there is really, by current standards, is quite early. But of course, since then, the idea of the shared access to computers and the internet using a community telecenter has become, I wouldn't say redundant, but it's changed, because now everybody uses smartphones, and all they want is a good connection so that they can access Facebook and other social forms of social media and payment technologies. So that's kind of the situation now. But I would say, perhaps building on that, having said that access is crucial, it's not the only thing that's required. The World Bank has pointed out that whilst technology has spread rather rapidly throughout most of the world, the benefits from that technology are lagging behind. So there's something else that's needed in conjunction with providing access to technology in order for especially marginalized and underserved communities to get benefits from having that access. One of the things is, if you want to sell your handicrafts online, you have to have financial systems that are operated by financial institutions that allow you to receive payments online. So if you're going to do e-health and remote diagnostics, you need hospitals and clinics in the cities to cooperate to equally provide those services online. So it doesn't happen in isolation. And that's also, I think, something that we have to take account of when talking about spreading technology. It's not the technology alone that makes the difference, but what you do with it and what other people help you to do with it.
Thank you, Dr. Roger. And that's for Dr. Francis. Have any?
Yes, just to get back to this theme, tourism for growth. And if we say local tourism or domestic tourism for inclusive growth, so then we can see that there is a potential for many communities, mainly rural communities, to develop their tourism potential, to enter in the tourism industry, and with all the benefit that you can bring in terms of social, economic, cultural. So this is what we see. So we see that in the future, not less destinations, but more destination, and specifically a tiny destination, I will say so. But if you're a small community, a tiny destination, it's good enough. So we eventually, if we see the creation of new destinations, community-based maybe destination, so they will have a need to how we can support them in putting in place a governance, because if you are entering in a new industrial sector or economic sector in your community, so you have to learn about that sector. So I think that the link between the education institutions and the other organizations to support these new destination, how to build the governance, how to use technology, I see a lot of need, and at the same time a lot of potential to support them. So this is, again, I think that another impact of this pandemic is the creation of new small destinations to serve the domestic and local tourism.
Thank you, Dr. Francis. So I think we about the time, so I'd like to pass the mic back to Dr. Anna Jackie. Thank you, everyone.
Thanks, Nicholas, for a wonderful session and very learning session also. Now, without taking too much of time, I would like to invite Mr. Namaga for his vote of thanks and closing the session. And we are always open for the suggestions through email, through WhatsApp. I'm sure that we'll take this mission further. So over to you, Mr. Maga. Unmute yourself, sir.
Sorry. In fact, the theme that we have chosen today for the tourism for inclusive growth fits perfectly well. And I can see with the discussion that we have with all the panelists, right from the governance of the local level, digital at local level, virtual tourism, tourism alive mostly in the challenging region. I've seen the Airbnb as an inclusive tourism, also the community sustainability channel, and one of the participants just mentioned a very good comments about sustainable, socially responsible and inclusive tourism. And I think these are the words and the common theme that we can keep for future discussion with our panel. And on this note, I would like to thank all the partner organizations that have participated today, and to start with the Center for Excellence for Destinations, the Conscious Ventures, the MHCI International, the World Airlines Club Association, the company CSR, the APPRR2, the Asia Pacific Partnership for Responsible Rural Tourism, UNIMAS Malaysia, Roger Harris Associates, and I would like to say a big thank you to you. And also a special thank to Bhavesh Rato, the company CSR, and team of the UNIMAS for putting all this IT support for today. And also all the speakers, again, Professor François Bédard, Dr. Roger Harris, Ms. Vinita Dixit, Dr. Narayan Kalatu-Ramayel, and Mr. Nicolas, and also to Anil yourself. Thank you so much. And I wish you well and look forward for the next session after receiving some positive feedback from you all. Thank you.
Thank you. So we're closing this session today. Thank you very much for being on time and completing this session on time. Thank you very much, all of you. Namaste.
Yeah.